Oh god, this is a terrible camera angle. So I made a video recently talking about RP combat. Combat that keeps the roleplay and treats it more like a social encounter rather than an ordered roll of initiatives like typical Pathfinder content, specifically in a Pathfinder 2e game. And I got so many comments. Oh, why don't you just play a rules light system? Why are you playing Pathfinder if you don't want to roll with strategic combat? Why are you wasting the potential of this game? Like, look, I love Pathfinder. Y'all act like because I played without the initiative order one time, I hated it. It's not true at all. I originally didn't even plan on making this video, but after reading the comments on that one, which thank you guys, that video performed super well and I'm glad you're enjoying this type of content. After reading those comments, I figured I should make a video explaining myself, because some of you, and I'm not like trying to be aggressive, I'm not calling you out in any way, some of you did seem genuinely curious why I was reducing the mechanics in a game like Pathfinder 2e, which is well known for its chonky mechanics. Let's get one thing straight. I love chunky mechanics. For the past 15 months of my life, I have made a living talking about chunky mechanics. I adore this meat, being able to sink my teeth into this giant TTRPG burger with cheese. And you can watch pretty much any of my videos. There's always something to love in everything I cover, whether it's an ancestry, an archetype, a class, a spell. I love digging into that stuff. But 15 months of digging deep into that stuff definitely takes its toll. I am not done with this game. I am not done talking about this game. I f***ing love this game. But I need to roleplay more, both as a player and as a GM. This problem I've had is not strictly from Pathfinder. Even in my 3.5 D&D game, I found myself looking at mechanics and not character more times than I would like to. This is not inherently a bad thing. If you like looking at mechanics over character, that's fine. Play your way. My problem I'm having is that in my mind, mechanics are getting in the way of my roleplay. Not inherently a table problem, just a personal problem. That's why the thumbnail was a personal struggle. All that being said, why do I play Pathfinder 2nd Edition? Why would I play a game with so much detail, so much emphasis on the strategic combat, from the ranges to the areas to the crazy amount of spells and feats and options and combat maneuvers, which all have specific action costs and are balanced to weigh the action economy from heroes against the enemies, from the number of players to the number of enemies to the number of actions each side has? Why would I throw all of that to the curb just to glide through an encounter with roleplay? Because not every combat needs that level of depth. That level of depth is incredible for boss fights, for intense fights, for places where every single individual second matters and every move a character makes is impactful. That structured, deep initiative system is phenomenal. But in something like a chase sequence, or something where the enemy isn't necessarily fighting back, or somewhere that doesn't need that kind of split-second reaction from every character every turn, I find it way more engaging and immersive to simply run through it as a role-play encounter. It keeps it moving fast. Nobody feels the need to skip a turn, or they don't feel like they wasted a turn, and everything like that. It's a fantastic experience overall for those fights. I guess I should say fights in quotation marks, because I would not usually use this for a fight, if that makes sense. In the example I gave in the previous video, it was a chase sequence. The enemy cast one or two spells throughout the encounter, but never turned and sat there fighting them. If the players are going fisticuff, mano a mano, just throwing punches at enemies that are punching back, yeah, I'm gonna use structured initiative. But when the combat is more story than combat, that's when I choose to use the roleplay combat system. I hope that gives a little bit more clarity there. And now let's touch on a really common comment. Really common comment. That's really hard to say. A really common comment I've been getting really my entire time here on YouTube. Even as like a heavy advocate for the Pathfinder 2e system, sometimes I say, this seems a little overcomplicated. This seems a bit much. I would rather do it simply like this. And if I ever say the word simple in a video, I get the same comment every time. Well, if you want to play a simple game, why don't you go play 5e? Why don't you go play Fate Core? They're not all aggressive, they're not all rude. I know some of you are leaving amazing comments like, hey, if you really like rules light, why don't you go ahead and try Fate Core? And I appreciate those comments, you guys are amazing, I see you. But that's because I don't want to play rules light. Let me explain here. Personally, it is easier for me to have the rules and choose to ignore them than to not have the rules and choose to invent them. If I need a rule, it's already there. And if I don't think that rule works well in the moment, I can just say, bye-bye, see you later, call you next Tuesday. But in something like Fate Core, somewhere where a lot of things are left sort of up to interpretation and up to GM discretion, it can be a lot harder when someone wants to do something that would normally have a rule in something like 5e or Pathfinder, but might not be detailed in something like Fate Core, something like grappling. 5e is a really bad example of grappling. Don't. In something like Fate Core, I think you would just pick the most relevant skill and roll it, which honestly, that's a cool system. I don't hate it. I haven't played it in a long time, so sorry if I'm getting something wrong, but I know you have like good, great, awesome, incredible, amazing, I think that's Sonic Colors. You have different stages of skills and different ranks of skills, and the more rank you have, the better you are at that skill, and whenever you roll anything, you roll for the closest appropriate skill. If you have the gunslinging skill and you're shooting a gun, you're probably gonna roll gunslinging. That's cool and all, but then if you're trying to grapple someone and your most applicable skill is cooking, it gets kind of weird, and you either have to roll like with nothing, which also feels bad, because you don't have anything there on your character sheet to talk about it, or if it is applicable but sort of stretching so, it can be fun. It can be like, my guy's a cook, but he also wrestles his own cows, so that's why I can apply it to the grapple check. This is just me personally. I mean, obviously, all of these videos I've been doing lately have been me personally, and this is the internet. So if you don't say that this is me personally, my opinion, my thoughts, not yours, just me, my experiences, my game, the way I play, that's why I like having the rules. They don't have to be followed, but they're there if you need them. Especially when you've studied the game as much as I have, I've sort of reached a peaking point. I don't know if I'd call it a peak, maybe a plateau, but I know so many of these rules by heart at this point, because I've been talking about them for 15 months, that I can ignore them and use them as I need to. If one of my players is like, yeah, I'd like to make a long jump, I just say, roll athletics. And they're like, how far does that go? I'm like, I don't know, just roll it. Like, yeah, sure. I know that a long jump, you can jump up to the number you rolled on your check, up to a maximum of your speed. That's not necessary information. If they roll a 19 plus 14 and get a 30, they're gonna make the jump unless it's like a 40-foot gap. Or they're a dwarf. It's hard to come up with examples off the top of my head because when I'm GMing, I don't necessarily think about it that way. In the heat of the moment, I do what feels right. I'm a very gut-influenced GM. I don't even write out like specifics. I don't follow adventure paths to a T, so I'm sorry. I know a lot of you in the comments have been like, where are you in Extinction Curse? How's that going? What part are you at? And I'm like, no. I homebrew a ton, I rewrite a ton, and especially I cater the game to my players a ton. So the Extinction Curse I'm playing is going to be completely unlike the Extinction Curse all of you are playing if you're following the book. But yeah, I guess that's the long and short of it. I like to have the rules and not need them than to not have the rules and end up needing them. Does that make sense? I hope that makes sense. I hope I was able to explain myself a little bit here. I did want to answer some of those comments because I have been reading them constantly and I love it. And I just thought it'd be fun to make a video sort of responding directly to you guys. Not covering anything directly from the book, not covering anything that is a mechanic or whatnot. Just my personal experience on some of the questions I've seen you have in the comments. So I hope that was interesting. Shout out to my patrons on the No Nat One's Patreon page for supporting me financially every single month. We've had some amazing increase in Patreon growth, and I'm probably going to sit down and work on a new Patreon homebrew soon, so get psyched for that. If you want access to that homebrew when it comes out, as well as every homebrew I've released so far, you can pledge using the link down below for $10 or more a month, and you will get access to everything. So that is it for me, guys. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please do leave a like and subscribe to the channel for more Pathfinder 2e content like this. Thank you guys sincerely from the bottom of my heart. I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day. Until next time, my hair still looks incredible. No Nat Ones.